It's the Bobby Mo Show, presented by Dollar Energy Fund and First Commonwealth Bank. Dollar Energy Fund, helping our neighbors in need maintain basic utility service since 1983. Visit dollarenergy.org or text DEF to the number 53555. And First Commonwealth Bank is here to help you build financial confidence through everyday moments of life by supporting businesses to helping families find a house they love to call home and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit a First Commonwealth office or visit fcbanking.com, member FDIC. All right, a very pleasant day to you. Chris Shovlin, the play-by-play voice of the Robert Morris University Colonials, and head coach Andy Toole of the Robert Morris men's basketball team. We're here to wrap up the season on another edition of the Bobby Mo Show, and we have a live edition of the Bobby Mo Show. We haven't done a live show in, 3 years, 4 years?
Pre-COVID, I think, was the last time we did a live show.
I believe so, but we're here at 412 Project and Winery on Broadhead Road in Moon Township, and we've got a number of our good fans and friends with us, big-time supporters of college basketball, in particular Robert Morris College basketball. It's great to have everybody here with us tonight, no doubt about it.
Yeah, backed by popular demand here with a live show. The people want it, and so we're giving them what they want.
Got to give the people what they want, no question about it. Yep. And giving the people what they want is what the Robert Morris basketball team was doing this past season. Coach Toole, in all seriousness, there was a lot of growth in this next step, moving into the Horizon League and growing the basketball program and taking it to the next level.
Yeah, there was a lot of momentum as the year finished strong there in the Horizon League. Obviously, kind of getting acclimated to the league over the last couple of years. I really felt like this season we were competitive in each and every game, other than the game at Youngstown State, and we actually were leading at the half, and then kind of fell apart a little bit in that second half. But I think we really set a solid foundation for who we need to become as we continue to grow in the Horizon League. I think we have some great core pieces that are returning for us. We'll have some consistency of our minutes. We still need to continue to work to improve, but I think we have a group of guys that are willing to do that. Even as soon as the season was over after the loss at Cleveland State, spring break was going on. Some guys went home for a couple days, and as soon as they came back, guys were in the weight room. Guys were hitting up coaches to get in the gym and get extra workouts in and get shots. And, when you see that kind of commitment and guys trying to continue to improve, where sometimes after a long season, guys are like, don't talk to me for 2 weeks. I need to really decompress. I think our guys left the season with a understanding of how good we can become if we can continue to work. And so far throughout the entire course of the spring, guys have been excellent in their work.
I think one of the things that really stood out this season was there was a fight in this club every single game.
I think when we first, started to build this program, 16 years ago when I got here, the emphasis was really, to be a defensive first team. And as we moved into the Horizon League, I think there was an idea of we needed to score the ball more. And I think we made a conscious effort last summer to really get back to our identity of defending people, of rebounding the basketball. Obviously Khalil was a great rebounder. Steph Walker was a great addition to that. Jackson Last as well as many others. But we kept that the most important thing, right? Can we continue to fight? Can we continue to defend on a daily basis? We'll figure it out on offense. We'll allow some of our guys' his ability to make shots and make plays, take over. But we really can't lose the identity of the defense. And it was something we charted all year long. We would talk about it at halftime. We would talk about it at timeouts. We would talk about it post-game. And so I think it really became something that came front and center for us, and really was proud of, a vast majority of our defensive efforts. And I think that allowed us a chance to become a competitive team in this league.
Andy, let's go through the season step by step if we can. First of all, we opened up with some non-conference wins, picked Greensburg, West Virginia Wesleyan. A big win over Central Michigan on the road, Mount St. Mary's and St. Francis of Loretto, of course, old-time foes in the NEC. And again, some big programs that you faced. Ohio State fell to Dayton by only 9 points, was in that ball game. Marshall, and then the tournament in Savannah, of course, which didn't go your way, but you had some guys banged up there.
It didn't go our way, but I think it was the right thing for us to do, to try and go and play against mid-major programs, play back-to-back days. And I think those 3 games in 3 days was really a springboard for us starting to understand what we needed to do to win. Obviously the game at Mercer was our first game in Savannah, and we made 1 3-pointer the entire game. I don't care in this day and age of college basketball, if you make 1 3-point shot, it's going to be really hard for you to win. And that being said, we were down 1 possession with under a minute to go in that game. The Evansville game, obviously we had a big lead at half and gave it away in the second half. And then South Alabama was just a really strong, they were bigger, much more physical than we were, and really beat us up in that third day. But I think each and every day we got better because we started to figure out a little more, right? Josh Corbin was new to the rotation. Jackson Lass was new to the rotation. Steph Walker, TJ Wainwright, Chris Ford. Right? We had some new pieces that we're trying to get acclimated together, create some chemistry. And after we lost the game to Evansville, I remember sitting in the hotel. Khalil, Mike Green, and Enoch came into the meeting room where the coaches were preparing for the next day. And they just started to talk about how we've got to stay with it. We've got to continue to work. We've got to continue to improve. We've got to get better. We've got to get a little bit tighter in our execution. And then even after the South Alabama game, in the locker room, some guys really spoke up about, trying to get into that next level where we could stack stretches of time together to be able to get wins, right? They really were focused on figuring out how to win some games. And I think after that Savannah trip, you started to see us perform much more consistently, whether it was the game at Wright State, at Northern Kentucky where we had a chance to be able to win that game, and then some of the other games you mentioned in the non-conference that we were able to win. But I think even though Savannah didn't look great on our record, I think it was a really important piece of our season because guys really started to figure out, hey, if we want to be successful, we've got to tighten up in these areas and we've got to be consistent in how we perform in those areas.
I totally agree, and I know what you're talking about. You go into Wright State, you open up the Horizon League season with an 80-59 win over the defending conference champions, and of course a 4-point loss to Northern Kentucky 2 nights later, and Northern Kentucky ended up winning the crown this year.
And we always, as coaches, are trying to find those moments in time where you can kind of, you're constantly trying to sell how we need to play, how we want to play, what we need to do in all these different situations. And you're always looking for small wins in certain instances, like playing against Dayton. That was a small win for us because we talked about going out there and just being as competitive and as locked into our formula as we could for 40 minutes, right? And I think that started to kind of build some belief in our team. The Wright State game, I think more than any other so far, has built some of that belief, right? We left that game saying, hey, we can play with anybody in this league if we do the things that we're working on every day, if we do the things that are on our scouting report, if we execute and play together on both sides of the ball, we can be successful. And I think that was a really important game for us in kind of finding some confidence in each other and finding some confidence in our formula to be able to go out and be successful against teams in the Horizon League.
During the conference season, things got a little streaky. There were streaks of wins, streaks of losses, but I picked out some games. I took the liberty of picking out some of the games that stood out to me. One of them was a win over Oakland at home, 68-63. You figured out a way to win, and you were on a win streak at that moment in time. That was the third win in a row. Khalil Spear hit his 1,000th career point, 500 rebounds. Of course, he went on to get 100 blocks in his career later on in the season as well, but he was a real standout in that game. That was a key victory for the Colonials at home against Oakland.
It really was. We had beaten Detroit on that Friday night, and then we had beaten Oakland on Sunday, and it was, I think one of the first times since we've been in the Horizon League where we put 80 minutes of basketball. It wasn't always pretty basketball, but 80 minutes of basketball together to be able to get 2 wins. And I think everyone talks about the formula to be successful in conference basketball is defend your home court and then be able to go out and try and split on the road. And so, all these things are important lessons for us to continue to learn and grow with during the course of seasons. But to be able to beat Detroit for the first time, we had beaten Detroit on that Friday, and then come back and beat, an Oakland team with Jalen Moore and Trey Townsend, who are, excellent all-conference players, I think was important for us. And I think all those little things are helping us build the momentum we need to get to where we want to get to, which is competing for championships each and every year.
After that, you went on a 3-game slide, but you broke it.
Thanks, Shov.
I'm only telling the truth. You went on a 3-game slide after that, in all seriousness, and after that, you were able to break that slide against a team that I thought coming into the season might have a crack at winning the title, and that's Purdue Fort Wayne. You beat them 71-64 in that game. MG3, Michael Green III, had 24 points, 18 in the second half. You're actually down 15-0 in that game, 19-2 at one stretch. And I was actually pulling some hair that's left out. I know you were too, but all of a sudden you found a way to win that game.
And I think that was, just showed a little bit of the character of the guys that we had. I think when we got down double digits and then it was 15-0, guys are looking at me to call a timeout. I'm not calling timeout. Like, we have to figure out how to play through this and how to work. And, by halftime, it was single digits. They made a little bit of a run to start the second half, but then the remaining 17, 18 minutes of that game was all us. Mike, obviously, with the last 5 points of the game, a huge three-pointer and then a huge shot in the lane for us. And he probably played his best game of the season there. And it's one of those games that you probably did not expect to win the way that it started, right? You're first and foremost, you're on the road. We had beat Fort Wayne at our place in a really good game earlier in January, and all of a sudden you're on the road, you're down double digits. It's their senior night, Godfrey broke the all-time scoring record in that game.
Yep.
But our guys, it was almost after we got down 15-0, it like snapped them back into like reality of what we need to be doing. I wouldn't advise getting down 15-0 and trying to come back and win, because we had tried to do it that Friday night at Cleveland State as well.
True.
We were down 17-2, and we took the lead with 50 seconds to go in the game. And I think that was just kind of indicative of the way that our guys would just continue to work, right? They would continue to work. We had guys that were really mature. We'd go in timeouts, and they would be talking about, trying to win the next 4-minute segment, trying to execute better offensively and defensively. They never felt like they were out of games. We had to talk about how to get off to some better starts, but the fact that they continued to work, I think, was just a tribute to, their desire to be successful.
You didn't have a lead in that game until a minute 17 left.
Yeah, it was 64 all, and Mike made that three-point shot, I believe, at the end of the shot clock to be able to give us that three-point lead. And then we got a huge stop on the other end. I think Enoch actually ended up coming up with a deflection or steal, and Mike made another, I think we called timeout. Mike made another drive to the lane at the end of the shot clock and kind of put the game away with a little floater.
That was a great win. There's no question about it. But maybe the greatest win of the season was over Youngstown State. Just about a week or so later, on February 21st, it was 83-64. Josh Corbin had 19 points. All 19 of them were in the second half, if I remember correctly.
It seemed like he had 19 in a row in that one stretch when we went on that run.
Unreal. He was 7 for 7 from the field and 5 for 5 from Trey in that game. And really, the Colonial offense was on fire that night.
That's almost Carvel Anderson, 7 for 7 and 5 for 5, sure. Right? But, Youngstown obviously had a great season, regular season champions, really experienced and veteran team. All of their guys were either, fifth-year seniors or grad transfers. And so they were really primed and ready, and they had taken it to us at Youngstown in that second half. We kind of fell apart under their pressure, and I know our guys coming into that game were extremely locked in, extremely focused. It was some really good days of practice prior to that, coming off the win against Milwaukee on that Saturday. And so in order, the first half of the game kind of went as we thought it would, and we just seemed to be everywhere. Our activity was super high on the defensive side. Dwayne Cohill, who killed us in game one, we didn't really allow him to get huge advantages. We had the lead at half, and then all of a sudden we just found some opportunities to get out in transition. Josh hit a couple threes in transition. Our offense started to click. Our defense remained strong, and we were able just to create this great separation from Youngstown, and played as well a half probably as we played all year long.
Yeah, no question. Tremendous game. Of course, the win over IUPUI in the Horizon League tournament avenged a loss that you had in Indianapolis, but you beat them 67-64. Again, Michael Green, with 2.1 seconds left, hits another big shot, and it's the game-winning shot that night.
Yeah, we made it a little more interesting probably than it needed to be. As everyone nods their head here in agreement, just wanted to give everyone a pulse check. But, it was we were up 8 with 3.5 minutes to go or so, and, just had some careless possessions with the ball and, weren't able to get some of the stops that we needed. But thankfully, Mike was able to kind of maintain his composure. And really, Enoch had fouled out at that point in time, and we were all in the huddle, and we kind of drew up what we were going to do. And guys were like, all right, Mike, make the play, make the shot. And there wasn't really a panic. It was like, it's a tie game. We have the ball. We're going to be able to get a good opportunity here. And Mike came down and hit a huge shot off a ball screen. That was the game winner. And, we had to wait for that three-quarter court shot, by DJ Jackson to just be a little bit short. But, I thought it was a gutty effort. And when you're in those kind of situations, and we had talked about it going into the conference tournament, we talked about it after that IUPUI game, that you just never know what's going to happen in conference tournament basketball. And, as much as we were able to survive on that quarterfinal game, it caught up to us a little bit in the opening round game, it caught up to us a little bit in that quarterfinal game where we were in control for most of the second half and weren't able to come up with one more stop or one more play to be able to continue on.
And let's finish out our recap of this past season with that game in the second round against Cleveland State. It was an overtime game, 75-70. The Vikings win it, but it was tied up. It was in overtime. Everybody had a chance. Colonials did have their chances at the tail end of that game in regulation.
Yeah, we did, and look back at that a number of times since the year's been over. Certainly not pleasant to watch, and just a frustrating thing. Hopefully, obviously, our returners use that as motivation, as kind of again getting an understanding of what it is to be in those moments and to be able to execute in those moments. And I think as coaches, we always talk about. When we go to practice, a lot of times we're preparing for those moments, right? Can you do it in that kind of environment when the emotions are as high as possible? Players aren't always in that same fold, right? And so now that you've kind of lived it, you've created some scar tissue from being that close and not being able to get it done. Hopefully it can be something that our guys use as motivation as we go through this offseason. But, up 7 with 1:36 to go, they make a three-pointer to cut it to 4. We get the ball, to Enoch on a couple of occasions, trying to create some offense and get a great shot. And, we came up short. And then, we needed our defense to get maybe one more stop or slow them down. They scored so quickly in that final stretch that it really just made the game, instead of shortening the game, it really lengthened the game. And, it's unfortunate that we weren't able to continue into the semifinals and get to Indianapolis. That was something that I think our guys were really hopeful to do. And I think they worked all year for it. But we weren't able to get it done. So we've got to continue to work, continue to get better, and be back ready to fight next year.
Turn that pain into joy next time around, no question. All right, we're going to take a short time out, but before we do so, I think we need to acknowledge the Cushman and Wakefield FCS Athletics Director of the Year. The announcement came out today. Our own Chris King, our Director of Athletics. Congratulations, Chris, on that fantastic award. Andy and I will be back in just a little bit. We'll take a time out. You're watching the Bobby Moe Show, your favorite Colonial podcast right here. Support Dollar Energy Fund today and help your neighbors in need stay warm this winter. Each year, more than 13,000 households in Pennsylvania receive a grant from Dollar Energy Fund, enabling them to maintain or restore basic gas, water, wastewater, and utility service, electric utility service. Find out how a small contribution can score big with those in need. Visit dollarenergyfund.org or text DEF to 53555.
Many families in our community are struggling to make ends meet and can't afford their monthly utility bills. They are at risk of a gas, water, or electric service shutoff, which could make it impossible to do even the most basic of household tasks. You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore utility services. Help your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org.
At First Commonwealth Bank, we're excited to be your community bank, here to help you build greater financial confidence through the everyday moments of life. By supporting local businesses that strengthen communities, to helping families find a house they love to call home, and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit any of our community offices to start your journey to better, or visit fcbanking.com. First Commonwealth Bank, member FDIC.
Thanks to our friends here at 412 Project at 988 Broadhead Road in Moon Township for hosting this week's special edition of the Bobby Moe Show. And thanks to our partners at Real Nutz Vodka for their participation with today's show as well. Yeah, give them a hand, okay? Go ahead. College basketball season may have just ended, but it's not too early to join RMU Colonials men's and women's basketball teams for 23-24. The season is right around the corner. Believe it, I know the basketball season just ended, but the next one's coming that close. It's coming up. It's all going to happen at the UPMC Event Center in Moon Township. Season tickets are on sale now. Call the RMU ticket hotline at 412-397-4949 and get more information at rmucolonials.com. Welcome back here to the Bobby Moe Show. We are live at 412 Project and Winery on Broadhead Road in Moon Township. Chris Shovlin, Coach Andy Toole, of the Robert Morris University Colonial basketball team. Let's talk about some of the players that you've had on the roster this year, and some you're not going to have next year as well. It's a different day in college basketball. We all know about the transfer portal and NIL, and we can go on and on and on. But before we get too deeply into this, let's talk about Khalil Spear, graduate student who had a tremendous career here. Earlier I said 1,000 points, 500 rebounds. I don't know how many thousands of block shots, and I mean, the guy was just tremendous. Dunks, just amazing. He's going to leave here, and he's taking 15.5 points and 8.3 rebounds a game with him. He's going to be tough to replace, no doubt about it, and also tough to replace as a player and a person.
Yeah, we are in a quest right now to try and find that replacement. A lot of our waking hours are spent, trying to figure out if either watching film, communicating with coaches or players or possible recruits to try and come in, and we're talking to them about, a void that we have and we need to fill. And, as we kind of go through our presentation with some people about, possibly becoming part of our program, we have a slide up there with Khalil and kind of the growth that he had. And every time it comes up, it's remarkable. He went from a sophomore at Bucknell where he averaged 4 points a game to his first year with us, which was the COVID shortened season, where he averaged 9, and then he went to 14, and then this year 15, and the rebounds are the same, and the blocks increased, and the efficiency increased, and just the growth he had as a player was really remarkable, and a tribute to the work that he did. The number of days that I would come in, and him and Dave Fedor would be down, in the gym getting extra work in, getting extra shots up, was just his desire to become better and better. A 2-time all-conference player, an all-defensive team player. He's going to graduate with his undergrad degree and his master's here this May. Did it on the court and in the classroom. Just a remarkable guy to have as a part of your program. And he's currently going through the interview process with agents now to figure out if he can get an opportunity to play professionally, either here domestically or overseas. And still in the gym, still in the weight room with our guys, working, getting better to try and now achieve his professional goals.
Everybody's talking, and Khalil, congratulations. What a tremendous career, and we wish you nothing but the best in the future. But so many people are talking about guys entering the portal. How does it work? I mean, do the guys who want to depart, do they have to report that to you, or they just talk to somebody else? I mean, how does it work?
No one really has to talk to anybody. You just decide you want to do it, and you go. And, you have to communicate with our compliance director, and, he puts you in the portal. But previously when I first got into coaching, and I was a transfer myself, and you had to ask for permission, get what was called a release for other people to be able to talk to you. And, a handful of years ago, because, like everything, maybe there were some coaches that didn't want to grant releases or, were being difficult. They went to this model of having a portal where you don't really have to have a conversation with your coach in order to get entered into it and decide that you want to transfer. And, now it's funny in this day and age of the transfer portal, and I don't think the transfer portal is a bad thing. You're actually communicating more with your peers and other coaches to try and find out a lot about some of the guys that you might be interested or might be leaving their programs. And everybody has a story of a guy that texted him that he was leaving, or kind of yelled down the hallway that, hey, I'm transferring, or whatever it might be. And it's just a little bit different than it used to be. And I know it's hard maybe to come in and have that conversation with your coach in some instances, but, I really think that there's some character building in those conversations. And I think we kind of allow those to be pushed aside because they might be uncomfortable for people. And it doesn't really force them maybe to address things that they could improve upon to maybe make their experience here even better. So I don't like that part of it, but yeah, literally you can just send an email to our compliance director, and he is bound by his, sworn oath as an NCAA compliance director, I guess, to put you in the portal, and then it's free reign. And with the world of social media, the ability for people to contact people and people being contacted even prior to being in the portal is a big thing. But I think, we've gone through this at various stages during my time here at Robert Morris, right? Had guys leave to go up, have guys left because they didn't feel like they were getting what they believed was their due. And, what we've always tried to do is, do the best job we can with the guys that are on our roster and coach them the best we can and be as honest with them as we can be, And if those are the guys that decide to be here, then we want to coach them even more. And if you feel like this isn't the place for you, that's okay too, right? And sometimes it's not. Sometimes there is maybe a place where you can have more success or a level that you can have more success. And we want people to be able to find that as well. Like, you work really hard as a Division I college athlete, and if you're not getting in the games, that's not fun. And so if you feel like there's a place where you can go and get in the games, by all means, we want to help you do that. And, a couple of our guys are in that mold, right? Tristan Jeffries, is going to leave the program. He was awesome this year. I told him on a number of occasions the amount of respect I had for him with the way that he handled himself, not being able to play as much in the games, but still consistent in his work, still consistent in his practice, still did a great job in the classroom. And he has some opportunities to go to some other places where, he'll have to compete for minutes, but he'll have a chance to get out there on the court. And that's what you should want out of your opportunity as a Division I athlete or as a college athlete, period. So, as much as, it's become a little bit of an easy out that everybody, hates the portal. In some circumstances, it's good, just like everything, right? Just there's good sides to it. There's not as good sides to it, and we're trying to make sure that we have the guys that want to be here, that want to work, that value the game the way that we do, and we want to go out and compete with those people.
I've been watching you for 16 years, 13 as the head basketball coach. I know for a fact, probably an hour or two after the Cleveland State game this year, you started thinking about your team next year. How does that challenge you with the portal? I mean, how does that challenge your thinking? And I know for a fact that you probably thought about, okay, what are we going to look like on the court next year? And you thought about that today.
Yeah, and we've been thinking about it, nonstop, and we were thinking about it before that, right? Because we're always trying to make sure that we have the ability to continue to compete, and we have to continue to grow. We have to continue to improve. There's no doubt. I mean, we're playing against really good coaches, teams with excellent players with great plans, and so we've got to get better. We've got to continue to work. But some of the continuity we'll have, I think, will be helpful, right? Jackson, Josh, Steph, TJ, Ben Kristoviak, who redshirted this year. Trey James, right? Guys, Kevin Martina, guys that are going to be back that have another year of experience understanding what we do, how we want to do it. And then we have to be able to add, again, some of the right pieces to that who value the game the way that we do, who want to work the way that you need to work to play for us. Right? We tell everybody in our recruiting we're not for everybody. And that's okay. But who we're for, we're really for. And if you love the game and if you want to work at the game and if you want to be around people that are going to be passionate about the game and if you want to be around people that are going to tell you the truth and you're always going to know where you stand, then this is a great place to be. If you don't really want to do those things, if you just want to show up on game day and wing it, this isn't the place for you. And you and I are not going to get along very well, right? Because I don't think that that's how you sustain success. And I think for the majority of our time here at Robert Morris, we've been true to that. And I think that's allowed us to be successful more than not.
With all that said, have things changed as far as signing players? I mean, are you out there inking people now? Are you looking? Are you talking to kids?
Well, that's actually one of the things that I wish the NCAA would do. We're talking to tons of kids. What I wish the NCAA would do would be if you do transfer, when you were, a lot of the recruiting cycle used to be in the fall. You were a high school senior, you go and you take your 3 or 4 visits, you decide what you're going to do, you sign in November, and then a majority of your scholarships were given in the fall, and then you kind of wait until the spring, and you might have 1 or 2 scholarships, or somebody might leave the team or whatever, and you would be able to fill those roster spots. Now everything is shrunk into this 6-week span from the day after Selection Sunday to probably June 1st.
Wow.
Everything happens in that window, whether it's recruiting your current players, your new players, filling your schedule, because in the fall, everybody used to try and schedule games. Now nobody wants to schedule with anybody because they don't know what anyone's roster is going to look like. And so everything kind of gets pushed into this window where after you go through a season, and it's funny, you talk to a lot of the coaches, and after a season, you're spent. But this now has become the busiest time of the year for us. I mean, we were on Zoom. I was on a Zoom call before I got here. We'll be on some Zoom calls after I leave here, right? Getting buzzes in my pocket as we speak, right? Because there's just constant players going in the portal, constant information being passed back and forth, constant calls being placed and returned, and it's become chaotic. And I don't know if it's the best system in the world, but it's certainly the system that we have, and we've got to try to figure out how to maximize it for us so that we can put the best product on the court.
How much information will be exchanged this coming weekend at the Final Four?
Yeah, tons. I mean, that'll be, there'll be, you walk into the convention center in downtown Houston and there's just, coaches lining all the hallways and, there'll be guys you're seeking out to try and find out and say, hey, how was this player? What was he like to coach every day? Do you know about anybody that might be leaving your league, your program? There'll be guys going down there saying, hey, who are the good players in your league that we should try and keep an eye on, right? And say like, hey, if you could take Marquise Warwick and you could take, some of the all-conference guys returning, that would really be helpful for us. But, some of those conversations will be had as well. And it's definitely a new age, and everyone's trying to figure it out the best they can. Some of it's for good and some of it's not, and we got to try and do what's best for us.
Does that go for scheduling as well?
Yeah, there'll be a lot of those conversations as well. They have some meetings at the convention where you can go and talk to people that are looking for games, talk to people that are interested in different tournaments and different things. So you can get a lot of that stuff at least started there. The hard part is when you leave there, sometimes being able to track those guys down again who said, yeah, we'd love to come play you guys. Okay, can you return my phone call so we can get a contract signed and dated? But that's all part of some of the stuff that we've got to work on here in these next couple weeks.
All right, since we're talking about the Final Four and since we have one more segment of the Bobby Moe Show to go, we're going to talk about your bracket.
Huh.
Yeah, right.
In the shredder.
Yeah, in the shredder. Everybody's brackets in the shredder this year, or burned, or whatever. It's destroyed. It was destroyed from day one. There's no question about it. But the Final Four is this weekend. We'll get you set up for that. Get Coach Toole's ideas on the teams playing in the Final Four coming up next right here on the Bobby Moe Show. The RMU softball team is back home this weekend to start a 7-game homestand at the Robert Morris North Athletic Complex. Coach Jex Varner's squad takes on Kent State in a 3-game series this Saturday and Sunday before welcoming the Pitt Panthers to campus this Tuesday afternoon. Admission and parking are free for all RMU softball games. For a complete schedule, check out rmucolonials.com. And Robert Morris Athletics was proud to partner with Dollar Energy Fund and First Commonwealth Bank for the Points for Power program this season. For every point scored by the RMU men's and women's basketball teams, First Commonwealth Bank donated $1 to the Dollar Energy Fund, and then that donation was matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners to help local families keep their homes warm this past winter. This season, $8,040 was raised to help our neighbors in need.
At First Commonwealth Bank, we're excited to be your community bank, here to help you build greater financial confidence through the everyday moments of life. By supporting local businesses that strengthen communities to helping families find a house they love to call home and saving for whatever tomorrow brings. Visit any of our community offices to start your journey to better or visit fcbanking.com. First Commonwealth Bank, member FDIC.
Many families in our community are struggling to make ends meet and can't afford their monthly utility bills. They are at risk of a gas, water, or electric service shutoff, which could make it impossible to do even the most basic of household tasks. You can make a difference by making a donation to Dollar Energy Fund. Your contribution will be matched dollar for dollar by Dollar Energy Fund's utility partners, and 100% of all donations will be used to help local families maintain or restore utility services. Help your neighbors in need and donate today at dollarenergy.org.
Welcome back to the Bobby Moe Show here at 412 Project on Broadhead Road in Moon Township. Chris Shovlin, Coach Andy Toole. One more segment to go. So how early in the tournament did your bracket go away?
Day one. Purdue was my champion, and obviously we saw what happened to them, right? So again, people that usually know the least do the best in these NCAA tournament pools. Picked by color or mascots or whomever you might be, you got as good a shot as someone that's supposed to know what they're talking about. But I had Purdue as my national champion. I just didn't think that anybody was going to be able to compete with Zach Edey. The only problem was I didn't know that Purdue wasn't going to give Zach Edey the ball for the last 9 minutes of the game.
That was a problem.
Because they seemed to be the only ones that were able to stop Zach Edey, and FDU certainly couldn't. And unfortunately, they were bounced on night one.
Well, that's the thing. It was Fairleigh Dickinson, too. I mean, thoughts on that?
A lot of thoughts on that. Obviously we have a close allegiance with Merrimack because
Yes.
Joe Gallo was an assistant of ours
Exactly.
for 4 years and a great friend. And, they won the regular season championship and the conference tournament championship, and were unable to go because they're in transition from Division II to Division I. And Joe has certainly handled it much better than I would in terms of his poise when he's been asked about not being able to participate in the NCAA tournament.
Right.
So to see, FDU be able to win, go and then obviously win, I think was a bittersweet moment for Joe. And, I felt for him a little bit. But Joe's team came in first. Jimmy Langhurst's team at Stonehill came in second. And FDU came in third in the regular season. So there were a lot of Robert Morris connections at the top of the NEC.
Well, that's good. That's, a consolation. There's no question about it. But you're absolutely right. Merrimack got a lot of love from a lot of people around the country for not being able to go.
They did. And credit FDU. I mean, they went out and they won that game.
They did.
Sometimes you're not always sure how certain opportunities arise, but if you get the opportunity to take advantage of it, would be smart. And Tobin Anderson and his team, they did an incredible job. They were excellent in the first four against Texas Southern. They won that game by close to 20 points. And then they believed, and they went out and they played with great confidence. You could see the Purdue team was not exactly as comfortable as that game wore on. Some of the shots they were taking, you could just see, you could almost feel the nervousness as they were releasing the ball. And that's a hard way to win a basketball game. And FDU, they fought, they scratched, they clawed, they made enough shots, and became the second team ever to upset a number one seed.
Andy, in a year of so many upsets, so many surprises, were there others besides FDU that are still shocking to you?
I don't know. I mean, I think obviously when you look at the Final Four, FAU and San Diego State are going to play in the national semifinal.
Yeah.
One of those two teams is going to be in the national championship game. I'm not sure anybody could have imagined that. But I think the thing that's neat about it is it just shows the greatness of March Madness and the NCAA tournament. I mean, really anybody at any time can get on a run and can have the experience and go in deep into this tournament. I think a lot of people are talking a little bit about the seedings in the tournament. Whether San Diego State being a 5 seed maybe was a little bit too low for them. Florida Atlantic being a 9 seed, maybe they should have been seeded a little bit higher, and that sometimes can change your path as you move forward. I'm sure as the selection committee looked at the bracket and said, okay, FAU is going to play Purdue in the second round. Are they going to be able to pass that test? Who would know? But maybe they were a little bit fortunate with the upset by FDU. So, you look across the landscape and you can always second guess. Princeton, for example, being a 15 seed, they were in the 12th rated league in the country in the Ivy League, and you're a 15 seed. It doesn't seem to really add up. So I think people will look back and say maybe there were some certain things that could have been seeded differently that would have maybe changed people's path as they went through the tournament. But you still have to win the games, and you still have to go out there and you have to compete. And FAU beat Tennessee and Kansas State, a 4 seed and a 3 seed in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. So they earned the right to be there. Obviously, San Diego State beat Alabama, the number 1 overall seed. They earned the right to be there. So they're there, and it's going to be exciting to see how the Final Four plays out.
Being a former Penn Quaker, that Princeton run couldn't have been too exciting for you.
It's always great to see the Ivy Leaguers get some wins, but there is a little jealousy that goes with that because that was my dream to be able to make a run in the NCAA tournament as a player and was unable to do that. Fell short twice in the first round, but those guys at Princeton, I think once you're done competing against them and you graduate, they're not as bad as you thought they were when you were an undergrad.
Sure.
And it was cool to see them do what they did.
It really was. Great job by the Princeton Tigers, no doubt about it. All right, we're down to the last couple of minutes of the Bobby Moe Show. You have some picks for us for Saturday's games?
I think UConn will win the game, and I think San Diego State will win the game. I think San Diego State's defense is incredible. You've watched them. They play, they have a deep bench that all come in. They have great size, great physicality. They really turn the game into a rough contest. FAU will try and get up and down with a lot of pace, but I think San Diego State will win the game. And the run that UConn's had has been incredible. What they've done in their performances have been amazing. Against Arkansas, against Gonzaga, they've won every game by double digits, 3 of the 4 games by 20-plus points. And really, in every facet of the game, they're beating their opponents, whether it's offensively, defensively, on the backboards, perimeter shooting, interior post play. It seems like every single thing is lined up for them to be the next national champion. Win the game on Saturday night against Texas, even though they'll be facing probably a pretty partisan crowd down in Houston. Yeah. But I think they'll win that game and then go on Monday night and become the national champion for the 5th time.
All right, there you heard it from the coach of the Robert Morris University Colonials, head coach Andy Toole. Andy, again, thanks for everything for this past season. Another year of growth for this program. Looking forward to getting back into the UPMC Event Center getting ready for the 23-24 season with the Robert Morris Colonials. I know you are too.
Yeah, it'll be here before you know it, but we've got a lot of work to do between now and then, and we're looking forward to each and every day getting a little bit better, getting a little bit stronger, and being a better team next year.
All right, we want to thank everybody for showing up for a special live edition of the Bobby Moe Show here at 412 Project and Winery. We want to thank all of our folks, all of our friends for having us here, and also the folks from Real Nutz Vodka for being here with us tonight as well. All right, last thing that we could tell you is thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll be back next week with another edition of the Bobby Moe Show. In the meanwhile, go Colonials.